Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Sam Vassallo, joined today by Tim Diacono, and here are today's headlines. So Malta's bars will remain closed until at least New Year's Day. Then some pretty interesting political revelations. Conrad Mizzi refuses to testify at the public inquiry, but turns up anyways. And Tommason Group are investigating who paid for Joseph Muscat and Minister's stay at Phoenix Hotel. French hotel, excuse me. PN raises the alarm about St. Paul's Bay home for COVID-19 patients. And lastly, Maypole warns people not to fall for a free cake scam. So before we get into today's interesting stories, may I remind you, our episode today is sponsored by Zanzi Homes. They are known for their commitment towards the environment, and they commit to plant a tree for every single property sold, which is a super cool initiative. And Zanzi Homes are always on the lookout for some new talent, so check them out on zanzihomes.com. Now, today is Black Friday, I'm sure you know that. And if you want to be the coolest gift giver this Christmas, I suggest going down to lovindeals.com to get yourself 5 books of Daniel Holmes for $9.99 each. Now, if you don't know, Daniel Holmes was a man who was sent to prison for several years for growing cannabis. And the book is a tell-all tale about his life in prison. It's a super raw experience, and I very much suggest that you check it out and get a copy for yourself and your friends. Let's get into the first headline, shall we?
Yes, so Malta's bars are going to remain closed until at least New Year's Day. Restrictions on snack bars, that is the fact they can't sell alcohol, and that they must remain closed until they must close at 11 p.m. Will remain in effect until New Year's Day. So originally they were meant to expire at the start of the month. However, Chris Fern confirmed yesterday they've been extended by another month because of the COVID-19 situation. I don't think anyone's that surprised by this announcement, considering the numbers have remained quite high, although stable. But now it's been confirmed that it's going to be quite a different Christmas and a different New Year's Eve as well than what we're used to. Now, Malta is not going to impose restrictions on private gatherings, so that means technically people can meet up in groups at private houses, farmhouses, and there have been concerns in this regard. But Chris Fern is telling people to maintain a sense of responsibility when getting invited to these events or when organizing them. Basically, to make sure that the same rules that apply in public should apply in private, but they're not going to be enforced. Now, I suppose it's fair enough, but then again, let's not forget that there are a lot of people who are suffering as a result of these restrictions, specifically the bars and snack bars, especially those snack bars who have been forced to close down because the restrictions have made their operations completely unfeasible. However, they are not entitled to a full wage supplement because they are allowed by law to open anyway. So these are in a really bad situation. They cannot open because they're not just going to lose a lot of money. They are not even eligible for the full wage supplement. And we've just seen some places closed down. I think it's a real shame. Exactly.
So I know that some bar owners are outraged because restaurants are finding this loophole to act as a bar as well, while they have to close their doors for yet another month. However, a recent report by the ECDC, which is the disease monitoring agency of the EU, said that cases will go down in Malta if these measures are kept in place. So I'm assuming they took it on from that advice. Now, just to give you a update about the COVID-19 cases in Malta, there were 152 new cases registered yesterday and 103 recoveries, putting up active cases to 2,115, and unfortunately, we've had 3 more deaths, meaning our total death toll is at 125. Moving on to our next story. Conrad Mizzi refuses to testify at the public inquiry, but turns up anyways. I wonder why. So Mizzi has said that the public inquiry was a farce because the Parte Civile lawyers of the Conrad Mizzi family are sitting MPs. It's Terry Kakia Comodini and Jason Azzopardi. I'm not very surprised that he turned up because probably if he had actually not turned up, the court would have ordered the police to haul him over, and that would have been rather embarrassing for him. May I remind you, Mizzi was expelled from the Labour Party for the Montenegro wind farm scandal. So it doesn't really make sense that this would be a kind of way for the Nationalist Party to get back at the Labour Party because Mizzi is an independent candidate.
Yeah, I mean, the last, so this is going on right now as we speak. The last we heard, Conrad Mizzi had taken the stand, but there was a lot of legal wrangling ongoing as to whether he should be allowed to testify or not. So make sure you follow lovinmalta.com, which will keep you updated with any pertinent updates from this crucial testimony. Moving on, the Tommason group has confirmed that it's investigating who paid for Joseph Muscat's and Minister Edward Zamitz-Lewis's stay at a French Hilton hotel, in France. So Lovin Malta, as you might know, revealed yesterday that this was likely at least partially funded by Jorgen Fenech, the main suspect in the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia, and in fact the Tommason group does own this Hilton hotel in Evian-les-Bains in France. And so far neither Joseph Muscat or Edward Zamitz-Lewis has denied this, and they haven't denied that Jorgen Fenech had paid for their stay at the hotel. They haven't produced any kind of receipts or any information to back up the fact that that he didn't. Instead, there's been a bit of a dispute as to when this trip took place. However, the main point over here is whether Jorgen Fenech paid for their stay himself. Now, there's an investigation going on by the Tommason group. Let's see how it goes. But I don't see why the Prime Minister and the Minister just don't publish all the information they have about this particular stay, regardless of what date it happened, to prove that they paid for it themselves.
It feels like scandal after scandal. I feel like we're almost getting numb to it at this point. Moving on to our next story. So PN has raised the alarm about a St. Paul's Bay home for COVID-19 patients. So Shadow Minister Stephen Spiteri has warned that some patients have reached out to him staying at the Good Samaritan long-term facility and have complained about the standards over there. Now, if you haven't heard about the Good Samaritan facility, essentially it is an elderly home that was turned into a care facility for COVID-19 patients to deal with our outbreak. Now, there's a general lack of information surrounding this place. It is not licensed as a hospital, yet our health minister and superintendent for public health has referred to it as such. We don't know how many doctors are working there, how many nurses, whether they're full-time or part-time. More concerning, there's a lack of photos, no telephones. The beds are too close together for COVID-19 standards. And it seems that authorities are not willing to provide this information. Lovin Malta last week actually asked the Superintendent for Public Health, Charmaine Gauci, at her press conference to provide more information about this, and we were essentially given the cold shoulder. So some patients have actually died there, which makes it even more concerning, and I'm not quite sure why they're being so silent about this.
So the reality is that secrecy just fosters suspicion. And there's also a lack of clarity over who is responsible for this hospital, whether it's the health ministry or the people, the authorities in charge of elderly care homes. And I really do expect and hope that the health authorities, start being a bit more transparent about this place, and perhaps even visit the hospital themselves to put people's minds at rest that this is a proper treatment center for elderly patients. Moving on to our final story. So Maypole, one of Malta's largest and most famous bakeries, has spoken out about a scam that's ongoing on social media. What seems to be happening is that someone or a group of people has created a fake profile impersonating Maypole, reaching out to people by sending them friend requests and telling them to submit their credit card details to be in with a chance to win a free cake. Now, we don't know how widespread this is, but Maypole, it's certainly widespread enough for Maypole to actually release a public statement urging people not to fall for this scam, saying that it's not organizing any such competition itself, and basically telling people not to just send their credit card details to a random stranger on Facebook. So yes, no free cakes.
Yeah, probably it would cost them more than actually buying a cake, if you just give your credit card details to a random stranger. I think this is just a lesson. It keeps coming up, all these scams. I remember there was one about possibly a PS5 that we had reported recently, and now this cake one. Just don't give your credit card details to random people on the internet because you're likely in a scam. So that's all our stories today. May I remind you, today's episode was sponsored by Zanzi Homes. They're known for their commitment towards the environment. In fact, they commit to planting a tree for every single property sold. Super cool initiative. And they are always on the lookout for fresh talent. So be sure to head down to zanzihomes.com to check that out. Now, a video from our sponsor.
We believe in challenging the status quo. We don't believe in being okay with the good when we know awesome is just around the corner. We don't want to do things the same way when there's a better way. We're driven to be more, achieve more, and be the very best at what we do. Changing the world for the better might just start with you. Changing your world for the better. And when your world changes, awesome things can happen. We are Zanzi.
And that's all from us here at Love in Malta. May I remind you, it's Black Friday and we have a super cool offer for you. Head down to Lovin Deals and you can snag yourself 5 books of Daniel Holmes for just $9.99 each. This was about a man who was sent to prison. It's a real life, true story, raw experience about his life in prison. And have a day full of love.